Now, as you know, we have the War Powers Act. My brother actually, when he was on the planet, sued under George Bush and what was going on in Iraq under the War Powers Act.
Mm-hmm. And won, didn't he?
I think he did win, actually. Yes,
yeah.
He did win.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Okay. Now, also, this is very interesting. The incoming New York Attorney General is saying that they are going, it's a woman named Letitia James, and she told NBC Today that she intends to launch a comprehensive investigation into President Trump and what his business dealings were when she takes office in January. She said, "We will use every area of the law to investigate President Trump and his business transactions and that of his family as well. We want to investigate anyone in his orbit who has, in fact, violated the law." That is a very strong statement.
Yeah, and I suspect that in addition to Donald Trump going down, the Kushner family is going to go down too, because these guys are, apparently big-time grifters.
Well, what's really interesting is that, of course, Jared Kushner's father was in prison.
Right, for fraud, for financial fraud.
For fraud, yes, yep. Absolutely. And so there you have it. Now, of course, we have heard all about the border wall yesterday. We heard all about the event with Nancy Pelosi and Senator Schumer. And so there you have it. That certainly took place in the Oval Office. But now the House Republicans may vote on the $5 billion Trump border wall.
Very interesting. I thought it was hysterical that Nancy Pelosi this morning was talking about this is a manhood thing for Donald. I mean, she's just rubbing it in, Ellen.
Oh, she really is.
Yep.
She knows how to do it.
There you go. Ellen Ratner, Talk Media News, goatsfortheoldgoat.com. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
It's the holiday season and traditionally a time for giving. The last 2 days, we hit less than 20% of our goal for each of those 2 days. We are way down. We really need your help. 877-378-8669. If your gift is more than $100 to Free Speech TV, they will, and you're going to want to do it quickly because it's got to get to you and then you've got to send it out to somebody else. They will send you a card that you can send to somebody or give to somebody indicating that you've made a gift in their name. So, that's a gift-giving possibility. We also have, a bunch of premiums that I'll describe in just a moment. But the point is not, let's get the goodies, or even let's give a gift, but let's keep this network on the air. I'm very concerned. We need to keep Free Speech TV running. And I don't want to do a 4-week-long or a 3-week-long fundraising pitch. Please call now, 877, I don't know how else to say it, 877-378-8669. We need your help. We need your support. If you've already given, thank you. Thank you so much. But if you haven't, please call now, 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. We're just way, way down, and I don't know, frankly, why. I know, a year ago, we had a soft fundraising drive around this time, but it was 2 years ago. But that was because it was an election year, and people were giving to presidential candidates and things. Last year, I think we did pretty good. This year, I just don't know what's going on. We need your help. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. With a $20 gift, you get a free speech TV window sticker, or car window sticker, or whatever you'd like to use it for. With a $60 gift, you get the ceramic Tag-Urate coffee mug with, for better or for worse, my face on it. With a $72 gift, you get the new 2018 newly released edition of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, a book that, well, in fact, we had somebody call in yesterday and say that she was a teacher, and she uses it in her classroom, in a college class. I know a number of universities around the country have used this book. Doesn't mean that it's written like a textbook, though. It's, in fact, the person who called yesterday was using it in an English lit class to say this is how you do good writing, which was really, that was really flattering, or that was really cool, or whatever the word is, but nice to hear. Put a lot of work into it, and I think that if you haven't read The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, you really need to. I think it's the most important book I've ever written. So, and it's new and updated. So that's with a $72 gift. With a $120 gift, you get a Free Speech TV t-shirt. With a $240 gift, the NLP webinar, and also the 2018 re-release of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. With a $360 gift, you get a 5-book special. In addition to The Best Democracy Money Can Buy by Greg Palast, you get Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, Unequal Protection, The Thom Hartmann Reader, and Rebooting the American Dream, all by me. Last Hours, of course, I just described. Unequal Protection is a book that a lot of people use as a, oh, here's what's going on. It describes how corporate personhood came about with this 1886 case. Of course, some of the origins of it go back to, I think it's 1819, the Dartmouth case, but this 1886 case was the one that the Supreme Court and everybody else always mentions. It's kind of the pivot point. And it was a scam. It was an absolute scam put together by the Chief Justice of the court, or not the Chief Justice, the clerk of the court. Wasn't even a justice, who was the son of the governor of Massachusetts, very wealthy man named John Chandler Bancroft Davis, who wrote a bunch of books himself. Well, you can read the whole thing. It's an amazing story of the hijacking of America, of American democracy by corporate power in 1886. That's the Unequal Protection book. The Thom Hartmann Reader gives you, chapter excerpts from many of my books. I don't recall how many, 9, 10, something like that. And Rebooting the American Dream is the book that Bernie was so excited about. It's 11 specific policy prescriptions to put America back together and put the middle class, the working class, back together. And Bernie liked the book so much that he wrote a cover letter for it that we delivered the book along with the cover letter to his 99 colleagues. He wrote the letter specifically to his other Senate colleagues. And with a $480 gift, you get everything I've mentioned: the sticker, the coffee mug, The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, the other 4 books, the Greg Palast book or CD, the Free Speech TV t-shirt, the whole shooting match, $480 or $40 a month for a year. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and hang out here with us for the last hour of the show. We'll have fun, and we'll go next door, or not next door, it's just down the street, but actually there's a couple of nice restaurants in the area, but there's one right down the street from us, and we'll just walk over there and have a nice lunch. So, and we typically do that with 5 or 6 people at a time, and it's really, really nice. But no matter what, how much you can give, whatever gift premium you may want, the bottom line is we need to keep this network going. 877-378-8669. Please call now. Thank you so much. Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, their fundraising drive, and so it would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. And of course, you can go to the Free Speech TV website and donate there as well. Please be sure to mention the show. There are a lot of great goodies that Free Speech TV is offering right now as part of the funds drive, and in fact, there's quite a few. But the important thing is to call 877-378-8669. Here's some information on one of the things that you can get. With a $72 contribution, you get the new edition. We spent, Troy Miller and I spent a year and a half going through all the research and updating everything and getting this thing exactly right with all the new climate change information, the last hours of ancient sunlight. That's with a $72 contribution, autographed by the author.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And it's pretty amazing what's going on here. I want to just kind of restart this conversation. We'll continue the conversation about who would you like to see as a Democratic presidential nominee. Looks like Bernie Sanders is going to be with us at the bottom of the hour. We'll be talking about Yemen. But there's a couple of stories here that I think are just absolutely fascinating. The first is what's happening in Spain right now. Pedro Sanchez is the Prime Minister of Spain, and he's a socialist, not a democratic socialist, a socialist. And they put together their draft 2019 budget, and he wants to raise the minimum wage to basically $1,100 a week, which would be, that would be substantial. $1,100 a week. This is next year he's going to raise it. $1,100 a week, 50 weeks in the year. That's $52,000 a year. That's what Spain is going to raise their minimum wage to. And he says a rich country can't have poor workers. Now, that said, this is a 22% increase in the Spanish minimum wage. That said, his Socialist Party only controls 84 seats out of the 350 seats in the Spanish Parliament. So this might be something that will get him lots of power and enthusiasm and all that kind of stuff, or this might be something that is going to sink him. So keep an eye on this. Right? This is fascinating. Meanwhile, we are on the edge of a series of crises. Right? We may well be on the edge of an economic crisis. Axios has just started a new economic newsletter, and they're saying, no, everything's good, don't worry about it. I'm not quite so sanguine. I think that we have some serious structural problems, and we've got a massive corporate and individual debt problem. And the only reason that these are not taking the system down is that interest rates are artificially low. And but that's, we'll see where that goes. So we've got that financial crisis. We've got a political crisis with a now unindicted co-conspirator criminal in the White House, and apparently a criminal as vice president as well. Mike Pence was the head of the transition team, which was informed that Michael Flynn was an agent of a foreign government, in fact, two foreign governments, Turkey and Russia, and did nothing about it. And it wasn't until the Washington Post outed this that they finally did something. So Mike Pence was apparently complicit in this crime that Michael Flynn has now pled guilty to, or a number of these crimes. And so, we've got a political crisis going on. But then there's this climate crisis. And the climate crisis could put all of them, in the rearview mirror, because the climate crisis is right now killing people. It is killing Americans. Severe storms, flooding, drought, wildfires. Just, one big fire in California killed 84 or 88 people. We're seeing people literally dying every month in the United States as a result of climate change. And it's not just here. I mean, we're not the worst hit part of the world. The places that are the worst hit are the places around the equator. And we saw this in North Africa, with the Arab Spring, the so-called Arab Spring, which was actually precipitated by a sudden explosion in wheat prices because the wheat crops were failing all across the Mideast. And so all these farmers fled their farms that had turned to sand in Syria, and they ended up in Damascus and other big cities. The same thing happened in Libya. The same thing was happening in Tunisia when that young street seller set himself on fire and, quote, kicked off the Arab Spring, end quote. But really, I would say that it was this whole economic crisis that was precipitated by an environmental crisis. And this is just the very, very tip of the iceberg. I mean, just the tip of the iceberg. There's a giant glacier in Antarctica. It's like, the size of the state of Florida. That if this, and it's starting to slide into the ocean, this whole thing goes into the ocean, you're going to see all waterfront property in the United States suddenly become underwater. It's, or at least, flooding. And this is, like I said, just the beginning. We are in the midst of a major extinction event. There's a lot of really nasty stuff going on. And in the midst of this, Chuck Schumer decided to put Joe Manchin in charge of the Energy Committee in the United States Senate, the Energy and Natural Resources Committee. Joe Manchin, who, when he was running for re-election, put a picture of the climate change bill on a target. Well, this was in the 2010 election, the climate change bill, and shot it with a rifle. Now, maybe he's gotten, apparently he didn't do this in 2018, maybe he's gotten a little better with this. But, he's from West Virginia, but, only 2% of the jobs in West Virginia have anything to do with coal. But Joe Manchin himself still earns money from a coal brokerage company that he ran before he became a politician. And he took over $150,000 in campaign contributions last year from oil and gas industries. This is the guy that is going to run our Energy Committee. Now, yeah, he's a Democrat, but really? Really, Chuck Schumer? I mean, I don't get it. Donald Trump, meanwhile, is gutting protections for 60% of our streams, wetlands, and waterways. Get ready to see more poison in your tap water. Seriously. Donald Trump, this is the Obama-era water rule that was specifically meant to protect our tap water, our drinking water. The EPA announced that the Obama administration's 2015 Waters of the U.S. rule would be redefined and no longer protect up to 60% of the nation's streams and wetlands. Bob Irvin, the president of the group called America Rivers, he says this is an early Christmas present to polluters and a lump of coal for everyone else. And, as you can imagine, a lot of people have come out and said, oh, this is terrible. Meanwhile, Congressman Ro Khanna, a regular on this program, every other week he comes on and takes calls from our listeners. Congressman Ro Khanna has said to Nancy Pelosi, don't just create a Green New Deal select committee. Make Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez its chair. I am totally in favor of that. And giving this rising star in the Democratic Party an opportunity to really shine. I think that there's some really, really good stuff there. And I think I talked about this a day or so ago, but the Donald Trump has shifted $1.1 million of campaign contributions into his own businesses and thus into his own pocket. This is astonishing. I get these emails, as you know. I sent $5 to his campaign back when when he first it looked like he was going to get the Republican nomination, and I've been getting his fundraising ever since. Dear Fred Flintstone, we need some more money, and I know. I mean, you can tell from reading them that he's targeting basically Fox News viewers, and the Fox News viewers are mostly over 70. And so here you have a bunch of people who really can't afford to lose their money, donating money to the Trump campaign, thinking that they're helping him get reelected, and he's taken 1.1 million of this and put it into his own pocket. It's an amazing story. It's on Forbes, of all places. I mean, Forbes also the group that essentially outed, what was going on with Donald Trump pretending to be a billionaire, and members of his cabinet as well, Wilbur Ross specifically. Meanwhile, in Wisconsin, the Republicans are I don't know if Scott Walker has signed that legislation yet. The Republicans are trying to basically strip the incoming governor, Tony Evers, of the power that Scott Walker has right now. And they're being supported in this with campaign donations from Microsoft, Dr. Pepper Snapple, JP Morgan Chase, Humana, and Walgreens. And Walgreens, actually, in 2008, the state Supreme Court ruled in favor of Walgreens, in this case called Walgreens versus the City of Madison. What they had been doing is they had been phoning up their tax returns. They'd been taking a very low valuation of their stores. Instead of being based on their actual store, they said, oh, there's a bunch of empty stores around us. They're not worth much, so we're going to discount the value of our store. And the the Republican-controlled Supreme Court of Wisconsin said, okay, cool. And this dark store practice is costing cities and towns in Wisconsin literally millions of tax dollars. It's led to budget shortfalls. It's caused families and an increase in taxes on families and small business in Wisconsin, more than in neighboring Minnesota. It's called the Walgreens loophole. It's deeply unpopular. Last year, a bipartisan group of state legislators began a push to change the law, but then somewhat mysteriously, the effort died. It turned out the Republican leaders, including Robin Vos, the Assembly Speaker, and Scott Fitzgerald, the Senate Majority Leader, played a critical role in the demise of that measure. This is from the New York Times. The headline, "The Corporate Donors Behind a Republican Power Grab" by David Leonhardt. A few weeks later, Walgreens donated to DeVos. A couple of weeks before Election Day, Walgreens gave money to Fitzgerald. Walgreens, by the way, did not donate to state-level Democrats this year. So basically what they're saying is we don't care if you undermine democracy as long as we get our tax break. Walgreens. So, you know, I don't use Walgreens. There's not one nearby. But if I did, I would be calling them up and saying, hey, here's my name. Here's the business I do with you. And I'm going to take it someplace else. If you can't call me back in the next 24 hours and tell me that you guys have changed your corporate policy in Wisconsin with regard to the Republicans, it's pretty grim stuff. We'll pick up your calls. There's a lot on the table here to talk about, and we'll continue with this conversation about who should be our Democratic nominee. What do you think is going to happen with Pence? What does the Cohen conviction, 3 years in prison, mean to you? What it means to me, well, actually the Flynn one is the big one. What that means to me is that Mike Pence might be going down with Donald Trump, which means get ready for President Pelosi.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
With your calls right after this. And welcome back. Chris, watching Free Speech TV in Capitola, California. Hey, Chris, what's on your mind today?
Hey, thank you, Tom, for taking my call. I just wanted to suggest, I think the best people for president would be Bernie Sanders. Everybody seems to be saying, most of your callers seem to be saying that. I sure hope the Democrats are listening. And for vice president, I pick Alexandria Cortez because, God forbid, anything happen to Bernie, or he just decides not to run for a second term if they win. Alexandria Cortez is young, and she's facing these environmental crises more than you or I.
Yeah,
the one she should be a great leader.
I agree. The one thing that would prevent her from running, though, is that the Constitution says the president has to be 35 years old. She's 28.
I thought she was 29.
Well, she may be 29 now. She was, she was elected. She was 28. And
my second pick would be, Kamala Harris.
Yeah, she's good. I would also point out, by the way, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez was tweeting about this morning. The news stories are saying she's 28, she's inexperienced, she doesn't know what she's doing. Basically, that's been the meme, right? That the media has been using, the corporate media. Paul Ryan, she points out, was elected to Congress when he was 28. And the headlines when he was elected was fresh young face, young buck, smart young guy, going to shake up the party and the country, that kind of stuff. And she's saying, am I getting dissed here because I'm a woman or because I'm progressive or because I'm a Democrat? Which is it? I don't know the answer to the question, but all great stuff. Chris, thanks for the call and thanks for the suggestion. Eric, listening on Resistance Radio in Milwaukee. Hey, Eric, what's up?
Yeah, hello. How are you doing?
Good.
Good. First of all, I was going to say about everyone kind of, it seems like a lot of people are fretting about maybe a lack of a front runner. And I asked everyone who in 1991 knew who Bill Clinton was.
Right.
So to take a little deep breath before we.
Or who in 1976 knew who Jimmy Carter was.
True. I was 6 at the time, but I hear you.
Yeah.
So real quickly on Bernie, and this is just kind of a small thing. I voted for him in the Wisconsin primary last year, and I consider myself slightly to the left of Bernie. But one thing that always kind of got me and made me cringe, I don't know if anyone else has spoken with him, but if you had a chance to talk to him, he's a great guy, and I know, he loves all. But in his speeches, and he's an older guy, and I don't know exactly where it came from, but I don't want to take guesses. He tends to use the term blacks And it was something that whenever I hear him speak, he kind of talks about blacks as blacks. And I feel that just kind of identifies people. And it's just something that always kind of stuck in my craw. And since you're going to be speaking with him, and I'll never probably get a chance to speak with him.
I've heard Bernie use the phrase African American, if that's what you're talking about. I've heard him say that a number of times.
Yeah, that was just a little something of mine. That, kind of. It's one thing of many. Other than that, I love the guy.
Okay.
So you get a chance to talk to him. So that's about it, Tom. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Eric. That's interesting. I don't quite get that, but we'll see where it goes. All our other callers, it looks, are calling from commercial stations right now. So, let me. What's behind Mike Pence's stony visage? This is another story that I wanted to share with you today that I thought was fascinating. In addition to Mitch McConnell getting $3.5 million in campaign funds from a Russian-linked oligarch, seriously, and the Trump winery petitioning to hire more foreign workers, it looks like Mike Pence is freaked out that Trump is thinking of dumping him in exchange for Nikki Haley. That's going to be real interesting. A woman of color on the Republican ticket? Wow. 21 minutes past the hour. Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, their fundraising drive. And so it would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. And of course, you can go to the Free Speech TV website and donate there as well. Please be sure to mention the show. There are a lot of great goodies that Free Speech TV is offering right now as part of the funds drive. And in fact, there's quite a few. But the important thing is to call 877-378-8669. Here's some information on one of the things that you can get. With a $20 contribution, and $20 may not sound like a lot of money, but to Free Speech TV, actually it is. This is an entire television network that runs on a little tiny budget. For the $20 contribution, you get a Free Speech TV sticker, 3x8 clear window with a logo of Free Speech TV. Please call now.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. And Mark in San Francisco. Hey, Mark, thanks for listening to 910 AM. What's on your mind?
No problem, Tom. Beto O'Rourke might be the most electable because he sounds good, he looks good, and he makes you feel good. And if you hit those criteria, that's a great candidate.
Yeah, I agree. He's Chris Matthews keeps pounding on this. He's essentially the Bobby Kennedy of our era. And Bobby Kennedy started out a lot more conservative than he was by the time he ran for president. When he first came in with Jack, they were very much, centrist Democrats. And then Bobby got out and he saw the country and he saw how bad poverty was in the United States and saw how bad racial discrimination was in the United States, and it altered his worldview. It literally did. I have friends and I know people who knew Bobby Kennedy, and in fact one in particular, Harry Williams, who told me this just amazing story of when he and Bobby and an African American walked into a restaurant down in Florida in 1962, and the woman threw them out of the restaurant. This was an all-night diner. It was after the Orange Bowl thing, and the woman threw them out of the restaurant because of the black guy who was with them. And Bobby just went nuts. He couldn't believe it. He said to the woman, "I'm the Attorney General of the United States. You can't do this." And she said, "I don't care if you're God. Our policy is that we don't serve N-words." And Bobby just lost it. And that was like this. I think that there were several major turning points in his life, and I'm suspecting Beto has gone through that. On the other hand, this might be wishful thinking on my part, Mark, but I think he's...
One last thing
on
Reaganomics.
Yeah.
It's the biggest scam ever perpetrated on America. It's really transferring wealth from the middle class and poor to the rich, and it needs to end.
Yeah, and by the way, it's not new. This is what Warren Harding brought in 1920, and it led to the Roaring Twenties and then directly to the Great Crash in 1929. He was doing the exact same thing. His campaign slogan was cut taxes. The top tax rate was 91% then. He lowered it to 25%. And then he had another slogan, which was more business in government, less government in business. In other words, privatize and deregulate. And so, Reaganomics has been tried before, and it ended in the Great Depression. We should have learned from that. Mark, thanks for the call. Well said. John in Seattle. Hey, John, what's up?
Yep.
John, you're on the air.
Hey, Tom. Love you.
Thanks.
All the time when I was in Miami landscaping. I wanted to bring up that you were talking about climate change. I seen the water level rise when I would work in South Beach twice a week over the years. I think it was about 7 years. And whenever there was a full moon or a king moon.
You're talking Miami Beach?
With the docks.
John, you're talking Miami Beach. Your phone is breaking up pretty badly.
Yeah, Miami Beach. I'm outside. It's kind of windy out here.
Yeah, I can hear it. But yeah, you're absolutely right. The water is rising. John, thank you for the call. Very, very well said. Darwin in Tampa, Florida. Speaking of Florida, hey, Darwin, what's up?
Hey, Tom, love the show, man.
Thanks.
Since we're talking from now, so this is kind of a wish list. Why couldn't we do a Biden-Sanders ticket?
We can do anything. The thing is, you don't decide the ticket. The candidate decides the ticket after the primary election is done. So instead of thinking in terms of tickets, we have to figure out who's going to be the person who's at the head of the ticket.
Well, here's my thought.
And I doubt Joe Biden would put Bernie Sanders on the ticket with him.
Well, we need somebody strong, because in the debates, Trump just had a way of making Hillary look weak in the debates. And we need somebody who's going to stand up there and call him out on his BS.
Well, I think people are getting better at that. I mean, Trump was doing the wrestling thing. We talked about this yesterday, even during the debates, and nobody knew how to deal with it because they didn't realize it was big-time wrestling.
Right. I would personally, endorse a Biden-Sanders ticket. That's for sure.
Yeah. So would I. I would endorse any Democratic ticket right now, but I want one that's not only going to win, but that is going to repeal Reaganism. We really need to get back to the core values of the Democratic Party, the pre-1992 values. Darwin, thanks a lot for the call. It's great to hear from you. We'll be right back. It's 27 and a half minutes past the hour.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
It's the Thom Hartmann Program, fair and only slightly unbalanced. We'll be back. It's the holiday season and traditionally a time for giving. The last 2 days, we hit less than 20% of our goal. For each of those 2 days. We are way down. We really need your help. 877-378-8669. If your gift is more than $100 to Free Speech TV, they will, and you're going to want to do it quickly because it's got to get to you and then you've got to send it out to somebody else. They will send you a card that you can send to somebody or give to somebody indicating that you've made a gift in their name. So, that's a gift-giving possibility. We also have, a bunch of premiums that I'll describe in just a moment. But the point is not let's get the goodies, or even let's give a gift, but let's keep this network on the air. I'm very concerned. We need to keep Free Speech TV running. And I don't want to do a 4-week long or a 3-week long fundraising pitch. Please call now, 877, I don't know how else to say it, 877-378-8669. We need your help. We need your support. If you've already given, thank you. Thank you so much. But if you haven't, please call now, 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. We're just way, way down, and I don't know, frankly, why. I know, a year ago, we had a soft fundraising drive around this time, but it was 2 years ago. But that was because it was an election year and people were giving to presidential candidates and things. Last year, I think we did pretty good. This year, I just don't know what's going on. We need your help. 877-378-8669 is the telephone number. With a $20 gift, you get a Free Speech TV window sticker or, car window sticker or whatever you'd like to use it for. With a $60 gift, you get the ceramic Tag You're It coffee mug with, for better or for worse, my face on it. With a $72 gift, you get the new 2018 newly released edition of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, a book that, well, in fact, we had somebody call in yesterday and say that she was a teacher and she uses it in her classroom in a college class. I know a number of universities around the country have used this book. Doesn't mean that it's written like a textbook, though. It's in fact, the person who called yesterday was using it in an English lit class to say this is how you do good writing, which was really that was really flattering, or that was really cool, or whatever the word is, but nice to hear. Put a lot of work into it, and I think that if you haven't read The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, you really need to. I think it's the most important book I've ever written. So, and it's new and updated. So that's with a $72 gift. With a $120 gift, get a Free Speech TV T-shirt. With a $240 gift, the NLP webinar, and also the 2018 re-release of The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. With a $360 gift, you get a 5-book special. In addition to The Best Democracy Money Can Buy by Greg Palast, you get Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, Unequal Protection, The Thom Hartmann Reader, and Rebooting the American Dream, all by me. Last Hours, of course, I just described. Unequal Protection is a book that a lot of people use as here's what's going on. It describes how corporate personhood came about with this 1886 case. Of course, some of the origins of it go back to, I think it's 1819, the Dartmouth case, but this 1886 case was the one that the Supreme Court and everybody else always mentions. It's kind of the pivot point, and it was a scam. It was an absolute scam put together by the Chief Justice of the Court, or not the Chief Justice, the Clerk of the Court. Wasn't even a justice, who was the son of the governor of Massachusetts, very wealthy man named John Chandler Bancroft Davis, who wrote a bunch of books himself. Well, you can read the whole thing. It's an amazing story of the hijacking of America, of American democracy by corporate power in 1886. That's the Unequal Protection book. The Thom Hartmann Reader gives you chapter excerpts from many of my books. I don't recall how many, 9, 10, something like that. And Rebooting the American Dream is the book that Bernie was so excited about. It's 11 specific policy prescriptions to put America back together and put the middle class, the working class, back together. And Bernie liked the book so much that he wrote a cover letter for it that we delivered the book along with the cover letter to his 99 colleagues. He wrote the letter specifically to his other Senate colleagues. And with a $480 gift, you get everything I've mentioned: the sticker, the coffee mug, The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight, the other 4 books, the Greg Palast book or CD, the Free Speech TV T-shirt, the whole shooting match. $480 or $40 a month for a year. And with a $1,000 gift, come to Portland and hang out here with us for the last hour of the show. We'll have fun, and we'll go next door, or not next door, it's just down the street, but there's a couple of nice restaurants in the area, but there's one right down the street from us, and we'll just walk over there and have a nice lunch. So, we typically do that with 5 or 6 people at a time, and it's really, really nice. But no matter what, how much you can give, whatever premium you may want, the bottom line is we need to keep this network going. 877-378-8669. Please call now. Thank you so much.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, and Fritz in Palm Desert, California. Hey, Fritz, what's on your mind today? Fritz? Oh, it's the old, hey, I'm going to take you off hold, and off you go. Alice in Central Ohio. Hey, Alice, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. When I was a kid, I'm a first-time caller. I've been listening since right after the election. I love your show.
Thanks, Alice.
When I was a kid, I lived in Steubenville, Ohio for 2 years. My dad got an administrative education job. Steubenville is across the river from Weirton, West Virginia, and a lot of steel mills and coal mine type things were active then. And the change in how we lived as a kid, it would snow. The snow would be black. This was before the environmental protection stuff in the 70s coming out. The snow would be black within an hour after it snowed. We had soot on our windowsills because of all of the things that were in the air. I had respiratory problems there for that 2 years. In those 2 years, I was 8 and 9 years old that I did not have previous to or after we moved. And so, you know, a lot of the stuff that was protected in the 70s and beyond, you know, I'm afraid it's going to go again. And just those subtle things, along with all the broader things you spoke of, it's so frightening to me. And so I just wanted to throw that out there. I lived that. And the people that lived there didn't know what they didn't know, because most of them, that was their environment. So they didn't realize that others didn't have to, you know, wipe off their windowsills every night because there wasn't air conditioning and there was soot on the windows. It was just the way life was there. Right. So it was interesting to be in that. And then I also just wanted to throw in, I like Sherrod Brown for president.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I would absolutely champion Sherrod Brown in a heartbeat. With regard to the environment, the thing that concerns me right now is water. I mean, Trump says he's going to roll back the water rules and put 60% of the nation's waterways, which are also our water supplies, you know, for many of us. I mean, there's parts of the country that tap into aquifers, but you know, here in Portland, I mean, we get our water out of the Columbia River, and pretty much everybody along it does. Yeah, it's frightening. And if people don't realize what they've got, like you said, they won't realize what they've lost. Alice, thanks a lot for the call. I got to run here as Bernie Sanders is on the line. I want to find out what's going on. Senator Sanders, welcome back to the program.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
I'm great. I'm so glad to hear from you. I understand you're doing great stuff with regard to Yemen, or trying to here.
In a little while, we should be able to get to the floor and offer what's called a motion to proceed and have a debate on getting the United States of America out of the Saudi-led disastrous war in Yemen. And I am cautiously optimistic that we have the votes to win this. And that would be, Tom, the first time that the War Powers Act, which was passed in 1973, has been effectively used to end U.S. participation in a war. So it's a pretty big deal.
That's a huge deal. For people who are not familiar with the situation in Yemen, or the depth and breadth of the situation in Yemen, can you recap it for us, Bernie?
I sure can, and it's and it speaks to what media considers to be important or not, that we have not learned more about the terrible humanitarian crisis in Yemen. And what we're talking about now is that 3 years ago, Saudi Arabia intervened in a long-term, ongoing civil war in Yemen. The result of that intervention has been the complete disruption of the economy in Yemen. Over the last 3 years, 85,000 children have starved to death, and millions more face imminent starvation. We are looking at a generation, 48% of the children there are malnourished. Many of them are looking at stunted growth intellectually and physically. 10,000 outbreaks of cholera every single week because Saudi Arabia has bombed the water infrastructure in Yemen, so people can't access clean water. Half of the hospitals no longer function. So, according to a number of leading experts, we are looking right now at the worst humanitarian disaster on earth today. And it will only get worse if we do not end that war and provide the humanitarian help that country needs. So that is the major focus on what we are trying to do right now, get the United States out of this Saudi Arabia-led war. Second of all, I think it is time that we made very clear to the despotic regime in Saudi Arabia led by Mohammed bin Salman that we are not going to follow their adventuristic military policy. Saudi Arabia, as I hope many listeners know, is an authoritarian government. It does not tolerate dissent of any kind. We saw the incredible level of its brutality in the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, the dissident Saudi journalist who was murdered in cold blood in the Saudi consulate in Turkey, and then had his body dismembered. And I think the time is long overdue for the United States to say, sorry, this is not the kind of country whose leadership we are going to follow in a terrible, terrible war. And last, but certainly not least, is, as you know, Tom, I know you've talked about this a whole lot, the Constitution is very clear that it is the Congress of the United States, not the President, who determines whether or not we go to war. And for a very long time under Democratic and Republican presidents, the Congress has abdicated that responsibility. So today is an important step forward in Congress reclaiming that constitutional responsibility, and I hope we can win this. And I hope this begins the process of Congress making the enormously important decisions of when and how and where our young men and women's lives put on the line in terms of war.
Yeah. Senator, finally, last question here, unless you wanted to go off into any other areas, but it seems from the media reporting that I've been following that the Saudis, when Trump got elected president, the Saudis sat down and said, how do we get inside this administration? And they identified Jared Kushner as the weak spot because he didn't know anything about Saudi Arabia. He was uninformed broadly on Middle Eastern issues with the possible exception of his internal Israeli politics. And they put together a PowerPoint presentation, essentially a slideshow, and here's how we get inside Jared Kushner's head. The Crown Prince reached out to him. They started massaging him, essentially, and that led to Donald Trump making his first overseas visit to Saudi Arabia, and that led to this administration doubling down on their support of Mohammed bin Salman in the war with Yemen. Can you speak to that? Is that an accurate depiction of what's going on? And if so, what do we do about it?
I think that is an accurate statement. I think I would simply add to that a couple of other factors. Number one, we have a president who has a fondness for authoritarian regimes, whether in Saudi Arabia, whether in Russia, or even in North Korea. Number two, Saudi Arabia is, by definition, big time into fossil fuel. And we have a president here who has ignored all of the scientific evidence regarding climate change and the incredible damage it is already doing to our planet, and I think feels an affinity with a regime that produces a whole lot of oil, as does Russia, of course. So I would throw those factors in as well.
Yeah. And let's not forget the Kushner family going around the Middle East with hat in hand looking for money for their building on Fifth Avenue.
Exactly. You could throw that one in, too. But anyhow, we'll keep you abreast of what's happening. But today I hope we can certainly get a motion to proceed and hopefully win this vote, which will be a very big deal.
And people can call their senators at 202-225-3121 to be in support of your efforts.
And that would be great. Yeah. That would be much appreciated.
Okay, 202-225-3121. Senator Sanders, thanks so much for dropping by today.
My pleasure, Tom. Thank you.
Always a pleasure talking with you. Thank you. And continuing with your phone calls here, Corky in Hilton, New York. Hey, Corky, what's on your mind?
Oh, Tom, yeah, we talked about this guy before he got elected.
Which guy, Trump?
Yeah. And we discussed his criminal enterprises.
You mean you and me? Yeah, I remember.
We were proven right.
Yep.
And I've talked to you about many different administrations. I never once accused any of them being criminal. This is a crime family. They got to start putting his inner circle in jail, like they did with Cohen.
Yeah.
And send a message. You're not going to turn this country around. Trump is, in essence, turned the entire world around with the despotic elections of Spain and France and Germany. They're all going this way.
Yeah, and it's a terrible thing. I agree, Corky, and he's setting the example for the world. His rhetoric about the fake news, for example, is now being used by Orban in Hungary to persecute the press and to jail journalists, by the guy who runs Poland, I'm forgetting his name, by Duterte in the Philippines. They're all using this phrase fake news now. And it's like Trump is feeding the autocrats.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archive.
We'll be back with more of your calls in just a moment. It's coming up on 45 minutes past the hour.
Then we made all...
And welcome back. Sherry in Tulsa, Washington, watching us on Free Speech TV. Hey, Sherry, what's on your mind today?
Oh, do you mean in Paulsbo, Washington?
Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm
There's
sorry.
a typo
no,
here.
I don't care. I don't care. I just wanted to make sure it was me.
Yeah. Yep.
So I called in a couple months ago because someone was talking to that they were offended that people were referring to Kamala Harris as African American, and she's not because her father's from Jamaica. And I called in and said, it's just ridiculous because South America, Central America, a lot of the islands, Jamaica, Haiti, were all populated by Africans, and that you can't tell by someone's color where they came from.
Yeah.
Would you, if someone was up here from Brazil, would you say, well, that's an African Brazilian, or that's, you can't tell where I'm from.
Well, and they were all,
color.
and most of them were brought here as a consequence of the slave trade.
Yeah, and so people can't get upset about that. You can't look at anyone who has kind of an Asian appearance and tell where they're from.
Right.
And I don't want people getting offended because, or you can't tell if someone's American Indian or if they're Mexican or if they're, because they're all American Indians. And, in fact, it's such a petty thing, and they just have to get past that because I think it's more offensive to assume where someone came from.
Yeah.
Like a baseball player, he's African American. The guy might say, no, I'm from Jamaica,
Which actually is African American also, because Jamaica is part of the Americas, and his ancestry is African. But it's I get it. I get it, Sherry.
Waste of energy.
Yeah, yes. Although that said, these kinds of nuance or discussions. It's like my discussing abortion when I'm never going to be. There's never a possibility that I'll get pregnant. It's really more those communities to work out exactly how they want to identify and those people for that matter to say out loud, this is how I view my ancestry or my heritage, as opposed to having you or me or anybody else identify it. Sherry, good point. Thank you very much for the call. Jennifer in Stillwater, Minnesota. Hey, Jennifer, what's up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I took that MoveOn.org straw poll, and I voted for Bernie, hands down. He won Minnesota in a landslide. He won Wisconsin. I live right on the Wisconsin border. And I would want Tulsi Gabbard, the congresswoman from Hawaii, to be his vice president candidate because she's only 37. So if anything were ever to happen to Bernie, she's young. She's an Army veteran who served in the Iraq combat zone in a medical unit. She's a practicing Hindu. She's half Samoan American. And she also has pure progressive integrity. I mean, she spoke out in February 2016 and resigned her vice chairmanship of the DNC in protest of Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
That's a pretty big deal,
Yeah.
Walking away from power, basically.
Yep. And
for principle.
I know our Mayor Ryback here in Minneapolis did the same thing. He also spoke out about how there was only going to be 6 debates in the primary instead of 26 like there was with Obama and Hillary.
Right.
So I would absolutely go with Bernie and Tulsi Gabbard. And then I would say Bernie, he could just do 4 years, right? Just do one term.
Sure.
And then have Tulsi run
and then pass the mantle. Yeah.
Right. Otherwise, I'd go with Sherrod Brown because Sherrod is awesome, and he's from Ohio, and he's against NAFTA.
Real quick, what do you think of Beto?
I like him as a person, but I'm more progressive than he is. So unless he is really going to be a progressive, then I would say no.
Yeah, I would like to see his proposed platform. Jennifer, thank you for the call. It's great to hear from you, and thanks for listening to us in Minnesota. We'll be right back. Free Speech TV is in their fund drive right now, their fundraising drive. And so it would be a great time for you to call 877-378-8669. 877-378-8669. And of course, you can go to the Free Speech TV website and donate there as well. Please be sure to mention the show. There are a lot of great goodies that Free Speech TV is offering right now as part of the funds drive. And in fact, there's quite a few. But the important thing is to call 877-378-8669. Here's some information on one of the things that you can get. With a $72 contribution, you get the new edition. Troy Miller and I spent a year and a half going through all the research and updating everything. in getting this thing exactly right with all the new climate change information, The Last Hours of Ancient Sunlight. That's with a $72 contribution, autographed by the author.
Want to connect with the show online? You can find the Thom Hartmann Program on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you, and Fritz in Palm Desert, California. Hey, Fritz, what's on your mind?
Well, I just wanted to chime in. I, too, took the MoveOn.org poll. I voted for Bernie, and Elizabeth Warren would be my second choice, with Sherrod Brown as the third one. I think that Beto, who does look like he's an interesting up-and-comer, had himself a bit of a Howard Dean moment with his F-bomb, and I think that he needs to build up his gravitas before he should move on to that next stage.
Yeah, okay. He is new and young, but yeah, okay. Thank you, Fritz. Good to hear from you. John in Vancouver, Washington. Hey, John, what's on your mind today?
Well, I would like to look more at Beto. I'm not going to make a call until I get some more news on any of these folks, but I think our biggest crisis we face right now is this American need for instant gratification. This is a marathon. We need to keep and hold power in through 2030 before we're ever going to get anything fixed.
Yep.
Because it's a long-term game. And there's been a lot of damage over 40 years. You know, we aren't going to get it undone in 2 years. And if we get somebody elected into the presidency in 2020, and then do what we did to Obama, and you know, what he's going to lose the other levers of power 2 years later. It takes 2 years for the current president to shake through the aftermath of the previous presidency.
Yeah. And you know, and there's a fairly good body of evidence that's been compiled by people who do the math on these kind of things, that Citizens United, just that one Supreme Court decision, gave Republicans nationwide, as a result of all the billionaire money coming in, gave Republicans nationwide about a 7% advantage in all elections. And of course, Citizens United was decided in 2010, and you know, look at what happened right after that. You know, we've got a big hill to climb. But John, you're absolutely right. This is a marathon. This is not a sprint, and we gotta deal with it that way. Thank you for the call, John. Dave in Armstrong Creek, Wisconsin. Hey, Dave, what's up?
Hi, Tom. Yeah, the lady from Minnesota kind of took my thunder a little bit. I wanted to, you know, I actually Sherrod Brown and Tulsi Gabbard, but I would vote for Bernie and whoever he had in a heartbeat. Yeah, she's right about Tulsi Gabbard. I've been following her ever since she was a freshman. In fact, I spoke to her on C-SPAN years ago, and I was very impressed with her. And one thing I'd like to say, though, the people that aren't donating to Free Speech TV, just think of it this way. $10 a month is 2 fast food meals. I mean, come on.
There you go. Okay, thanks a lot, Dave.
Right.
Dave, I got to run. Let's see. Paul in a suburb of Chicago. Hey, Paul, what's on your mind today?
Hi there, Tom. Pleasure to talk to you. It's my first time calling in, actually.
Thank you.
I'm currently a student at Romeoville Lewis University. And, well, obviously, you know, again, our class, we're talking about immigration right now, and obviously it's a very polarizing subject. Both sides have some valid points. Both sides have some really stupid points. And I'm just wondering, is there a space for compromise here? Because obviously government shutdown or extreme actions are not something we want as the American people.
So are you talking about immigration, or are you talking about Trump's wall? Because they're really two different things.
Well, I mean, personally, I'd like to talk about people getting citizenship eventually, but it certainly doesn't seem like Republicans are going to budge on that until they get the wall.
I'm not sure. First of all, there is a wall. I mean, the California's border with Mexico is pretty much sealed off, and a good chunk of Arizona's. But secondly, the majority, I believe, I could be wrong on this, but I believe that the majority of people who are in this country and have been in this country without documentation came through border crossing points. I mean, you know, you've got 1 million people a day who are going back and forth between the United States and Mexico. And some of them stay in one place or the other, and that's not going to stop. You've got people who come in, you know, by air. All you have to do is get a visa, and from some countries you don't even need a visa, you know, like from the EU. So I just think that the wall is a non-issue, frankly. For lack of a better way to say it. I think Nancy Pelosi was right when she said she thinks it's all about Trump's manhood. Paul in how do you say that? Patchogue, New York. Hey, Paul, what's up?
Hey, wonderful show, Tom. One thing I think you should do is contact legislators and let them know about your show, because I go to these Congress people and I say, you got to check out Thom Hartmann. And most of them don't know about you.
Huh. Or at least their staffs don't, yeah.
But I let them know.
Okay, well, thank you, Paul. What's on your mind?
So anyway, I've been an activist on mostly Long Island, Shoreham, and Lilco, back when it was Lilco here on Long Island, and I had opportunity.
You're talking the power companies?
Yes.
Yeah, the nuclear power issue, yeah.
Yeah, and I had an opportunity even to work with Greg Palast in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful experience, but after going to these countless meetings, I feel like I'm talking to the wall, because these people don't work for the people, they work for the money.
Sure.
Jimmy Carter said an oligarchy controls this country. So my idea is to, instead of going just to the elected officials, let's go to the billionaires and to the moneyed people.
And say what? And say what?
Say we demand Medicare for all. We demand to fix our structure, our bridges, our infrastructure. And the way we could do this, people who live near people like Gates, people who live near Bezos, people who live near Zuckerberg, we can all do mailings. We can stamp monies like the Ben & Jerry's program. You stamp dollar bills. We can go to the merchants surrounding these people. We can go door to door to the wealthy people.
You can stand in the streets with signs or near the streets on the sidewalks. Yeah, lots of things that can be done. Paul, interesting idea. Thanks a lot for the call. And thank you all for being with us today. It's another amazing day. Michael Cohen getting sentenced. The crimes are becoming more and more visible that have been committed throughout his lifetime by Donald Trump, but particularly since he decided to get into politics. It's bizarre. And, hopefully we can clean this up and recover from it before too much lasting damage is done, both to our environment and our body politic. So don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires you. Get out there, get active, tag you're in. We'll see you tomorrow.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.